Hello, tankers! Today we are going to continue talking about British tanks. It's time to tell you about the heavy tanks of Great Britain featured in World of Tanks. These tanks interest most players, as they are perfect for absorbing enemy attacks and pushing through enemy defenses using their advantages in armor. What place do these vehicles hold among other heavy tanks? Let's investigate them, and then form our own opinion concerning these good old tanks rivals. At Tier 2 of the branch that lead to the top heavy British tanks, you will find two different tanks. The first is the Cruiser Mk1, a light tank. You can mount a pom-pom, an aircraft gun that you are familiar with and that is able to produce 4 deadly shots in rapid succession. Its tactics are simple enough. Just try to find a position where you can hide and then shoot those who fail to notice you. The second tank is the Vickers Medium Mark II. It has more hit points than any other tank of this tier, but it's rather bulky and has relatively thin armor. On the other hand, the vehicle is very maneuverable and its damage potential is high. This allows you to shoot your enemy from long range and support your team while attacking, using heavily armored tanks as your cover. At Tier 3, we meet another tank pair. Let's begin with the Vickers Medium Mark III. This brainchild of Vickers engineers is bulky, but it is also capable of very high speeds. Another advantage of this vehicle is the quick aiming speed of its best gun. These two facts mean that it will be easy for you to rush to an advantageous position and then just shoot, shoot, shoot. The A-10 Cruiser Mk2, a light tank, is armored better than its fellows and it is more maneuverable, and there is even more than that to it. Mount a 94mm HE gun on this vehicle and you will be able to make use of its full deadly power. One shot from this gun can send the enemy back to his garage, even if he is of a higher tier. Let's stop for a moment and study some techniques that can be useful for playing this vehicle. Mounting the binocular telescope module will allow you to act like artillery if you hide well enough. The penetration of HE shells isn't affected by range to the target, so your shots will be effective as long as you have the high accuracy gun, no matter how long the distance is. You can also support your allies' actions and perform maneuvers to get behind the enemy. While fighting with a higher tier enemy, aim at its turret sides and the back of its tank, where the armor is thinnest. If you do this right, this technique is sure to provide you with kills and experience. At Tier 4, you will see tanks that are well known among players. These are the Valentine and Matilda. You've already seen their premium versions in the Soviet line. Now you have another chance to meet them and get some new impressions while driving these tanks. The Valentine Mark III, a light tank, has very strong front armor. Though its sides aren't very well armored, it still suffers no damage from most hits. If you position your tank diagonally, you can effectively confront enemy tanks from the same tier. The penetration potential of your 57mm gun will help you reduce enemies' health easily. But it's relatively slow, so you can't shift between positions quick. The Matilda medium tank is more heavily armored and very bulky as well. Its 40mm gun is very powerful and capable of penetrating almost any tanks of the same tier. A good gun and solid armor means that you'll certainly be satisfied while using this tank. On Tier 5 we meet a true heavy tank. The Churchill is yours to command. This vehicle, also familiar to many players, is another low-speed kind of infantry tank. Its thick armor is of very little use though, as the tank is too large and bulky and its hull armor plates are vertical. Thus, it can be penetrated easily if you attack the Churchill from its side. But things get better with the 75mm Vickers gun. Its high rate of fire, good accuracy, and excellent potential penetration help you contribute to your team's performance. You just have to find a single tank and completely destroy it, and that's enough. Let's move up to Tier 6. Here you can see another Churchill version. It's twice as heavily armored now. This has made the tank even bulkier, but you can never have enough armor when we talk about heavy tanks. So go ahead and make the enemy's shells ricochet. They'll definitely fail to penetrate your armor, so try to use it as best as you can. Moving to Tier 7, there's another déjà vu awaiting for us. Yes, it's the Churchill again, and its hit points are doubled, which means that you can use them to lead your team's attack. And you'd better choose the right moment and right direction for your attack, because you have a lot of hit points, but they aren't infinite. And now we are moving to the most interesting part of our review. We are going to proceed to the vehicles that demand the attention of all top-level professional players and commanders. They'll find a heavy tank named Carnarvon at Tier 8. It's less maneuverable than its French fellows, but it has fairly good armor in return, and it's well-angled, so you'll get used to ricochets and penetration failures when exposing yourself to enemy fire. Nevertheless, you'll need to cover your hull sides because they have very thin armor and can't resist fire well. The 83mm gun has a high level of accuracy you are familiar with. Moreover, it has a higher firing rate and higher aiming speed, but lower damage per shot value. This British tank is able to stop most light and medium tanks at medium distances, and it's very effective when aiming at heavy tanks' weak points. At Tier 9, you will meet the tank named Conqueror. Its armor is more or less the same as its predecessors, but this vehicle is a fine combination of maneuverability, low accuracy penalties while moving, and awesome elevation angles, which will make your enemies suffer. However, from this point on, you can expect that your armor will keep you safe. Find cover and attack quickly from behind it, and hunt weakened enemy tanks as well. But if this tank's hit points get low for some reason, it can still play in TD-style ambushes, and it can make a significant contribution to the team's performance with its accurate 120mm gun. Now we've reached the top of the British tank line in World of Tanks, so let me introduce you to the FV-215B, a futuristic heavy tank of the highest tier. This vehicle is hard to control. Its turret is located closer to the back of the tank, and its armor is relatively weak. As the vehicle is almost unprotected, you must play very carefully. If you expose your front to enemy shells while appearing from behind cover, you'll certainly end up in your garage. So if you need to come out from behind cover, only expose the tank's tail and turret, and in doing so, you'll protect the vulnerable bulk of the vehicle. Choose the right moment to move backward, exposing to your enemy only the mantle of your gun and the rear of your hull, positioned at a high angle to increase ricochets. This tank is equipped with a 120mm gun. It's almost the same as its predecessor, but it has a higher rate of fire, and this means that this British tank has the highest damage per minute among all heavy tanks in the game. This is its main advantage compared to other vehicles of the same tier. Now let's sum everything up and formulate a brief description of the British tanks in World of Tanks. First and foremost, we can see that British tanks of higher tiers have very accurate guns. These guns also have a high rate of fire and have high penetration potential. Don't look for high-speed limits or almost invincible armor here. And another thing, playing top British tanks is basically similar to using American medium tanks. Light armor and high damage per minute means that you must shoot accurately from behind your allies, paying enough attention to protect your vehicle from enemy shots. That's all for now. Later on, we are going to tell you about the most interesting members of the British tank line in more detail. We wait for your comments on the World of Tanks forum. See you later!